lot has happened over the weekend, guys, but wouldn't you know it? There's one story so captivating that the corporate media just can't seem to get enough of it. Check it out.
Just as a new embarrassment at the IRS emerges, the release of a 2010 video showing agency employees line dancing.
Employees reportedly stayed in the presidential suite, plus tens of thousands were spent on producing videos for the conference.
Their dream? To become the next great dance sensation.
The music to the line dancing there was the tune "The Cuban Shuffle."
That woman is line dancing with a broken foot.
With a cat.
So
oh my God.
credit.
That's, you know what?
Doing the Macarena for peeps.
Oh my Lord.
Wow. Wait. The #1 news story of the weekend was IRS agents doing the Macarena? Oh, all right, I get it. The IRS is wasting taxpayer money, just like every other government agency. So, you want to know why this story was repeatedly covered? Because it's mindless and it's easy. Meanwhile, a revolution's going on in Turkey, one that's barely being covered by the corporate press. You may have seen the story get backpaged or scrolling across the lower third of your TV screen while IRS agents are doing the Cuban shuffle. But it wasn't just media here in the U.S. censoring the news. It was local media in Turkey, too. Check this out. At the same time that CNN International was airing the harsh police crackdown on protesters, CNN Turkey was airing a documentary about penguins. But square dancing and penguins aside, how about we give some due diligence to what's really going on? Last week, hundreds of people got together to occupy Istanbul's Gezi Park in an attempt to prevent its demolition in order to make room for a new shopping center. After a 4-day sit-in, demonstrators were met with brute force, with reports of riot police burning tents and attacking protesters with pressurized water cannons, pepper spray, and thousands of tear gas canisters, many times aimed at people's heads. What began as a small demonstration has since erupted into tens of thousands of protesters across 200 different cities throughout the country. You wouldn't know it by watching the mainstream media, but throughout social media, we've learned that thousands have been beaten, injured, and arrested by Turkish police. And despite conflicting reports of the death toll thus far, you're looking at footage right now of water cannon tanks barreling through crowds in broad daylight, obviously killing people in their path. The grievances people had over Gezi Park have now evolved into the largest anti-government movement in the country's recent history. Earlier today, yet another round of attacks happened against protesters in Taksim Square. Lizzie Fallon, RT contributor who's on the ground in Turkey, has an exclusive update for Breaking the Set.
Right now, I'm standing overlooking Taksim, and there's tens of thousands of people now filling the square, which is perhaps coming as a bit of a surprise to the government, because yesterday the numbers probably dwindled to about 5,000 in Taksim, and I guess they expected that on Monday everybody would go back to work or college or their normal life, and it was really seen as a kind of test day as just to how much momentum this protest movement, which started 7 days ago with Gezi Park, has. In Beşiktaş, the clashes are ongoing. It's been the scene of the fiercest clashes between protesters and police over the last few days. It is where the Dolmabahce Palace is located, where the Prime Minister Erdogan has an office. And police said a few hours ago that tonight would be the night where they finished protests in Beşiktaş. So we're expecting a very tough night there ahead for protesters. Now, the demands of the protesters have morphed, if you like, from what started, as I said, in Gezi Park with a protest against what was essentially an anti-gentrification protest, trees being cut down to make way for a shopping mall. And now the demands of the protesters is no less than for Erdogan to go and for the AKP government to resign.
That was Lizzie Fallon on the latest from Istanbul. Look, the government's crackdown at the park was merely the straw that broke the camel's back from years of suppressed discontent and anger. And after a 10-year reign that more closely resembles a dictatorship, the Islamic ruling party has been accused of running an authoritarian regime, censoring media outlets, violating Turkey's secular constitution, and jailing thousands of dissenters, including people who simply criticize the government on social media. Yes, He's jailed people for tweeting. In fact, Prime Minister Erdogan has said, to me, social media is the worst menace to society. So, with all this insanity breaking down in a country that's experiencing a late Arab Spring, why is it being relatively ignored here in the U.S.? Well, it might have something to do with the extremely close relationship the U.S. has with Turkey. First of all, Turkey's currently hosting an estimated 90 U.S. tactical nuclear weapons. Furthermore, the country is a launch pad for U.S. proxy wars and operations in the region. And with borders running along Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East, what happens in Turkey matters. So really, this boils down to international politics and global chess. And guess what? After all the havoc was wreaked, the Prime Minister, who's compared the protesters to terrorists, has stated that, quote, the Taksim project, which is the project demolition, will go ahead. If you bring 100,000, I'll bring out 1,000,000. Wow. With rhetoric like this, violence is only expected to continue. And as more people seem to be galvanizing against the government, it seems like the story is just beginning. So how long will the corporate media be do-si-doing into irrelevancy?